What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Gsluke here with our round 3 showdown picks for the Charles Schwab Challenge. It's the weekend. We've got the cut out of the way. Really looking forward to some weekend golf. And of course, going to get you guys prepared for the single round slate. Today was a pretty successful day. Now, we didn't take down the large field GPP, but did end up having a very solid ROI when it came to our showdown lineup. So can't complain on that front. In terms of the optimal lineup, it had Hovland, Spieth, and Scotty Scheffler in it. I had tons of Jordan Spieth and Victor Hovland lineups that were maybe a little bit more balanced than the optimal build, but in either circumstance, I got towards the top of the leaderboard, but couldn't sniff that top place. So hopefully you guys had some success out there for the second round. And we're going to do this in a little bit of an expedited fashion. So we're going to go through the weather, of course, the stats from round 2, and then we're going to hop through the player pool and just really the key guys that I want to talk about. We're not going to talk about every single player in the pool. So if there is anybody you want a specific take on, make sure to go ahead and comment that down below. So I stop on them. We can give them our full thoughts and whatnot. Otherwise, there's a good chance we're going to end up skipping over that player. So let's go ahead and start off with the weather, get an idea of what to expect here for the next round. And I think it's important to look at the weather before we look at the stats, because the weather here for Saturday cannot be any more different than what we had for Friday's round. So on Saturday, you can see the wind gusts are once again significant. Even more so than what we saw on Thursday. So in the morning, it's in the 10 to 14 mile an hour range in terms of sustained winds, but in the afternoon, pretty much 18 to 20 for the entire wave. So pretty much the guys in the morning rate, they're going to have slightly advantageous conditions to the guys that are playing in the PM, but it isn't all that much better, right? You're still dealing with 26 to 35 mile an hour wind gusts. So I'd expect the PGA Tour staff to have to run the greens slightly slower than today. Today, they were running at 12.5 on the stimp meter, perhaps closer to a 13 on the stimp meter by this afternoon. And if they do that tomorrow with these wind gusts, I mean, it would play outrageously difficult, right? Like 1.5, 2 strokes over par at a minimum. But understanding that they're going to have to adapt the golf course to the conditions at hand, it's still going to play more difficult than what we saw today, but it's not going to be outrageously difficult. So if we take a look at the scoring conditions, today it played right around even par. On round 1, it played to 0.7 shots over par. For round 3, I'd put it right around a shot over par, right? So just slightly more difficult than what we saw for round 1, because rather than it being in that 10 to 20 miles an hour range of sustained winds, there were pockets there on Thursday, particularly early in the morning and then really late in the afternoon on Thursday, where it was closer to like 4 to 5 miles an hour of sustained winds. So if this forecast ends up holding up, expect something close to the 1 shot over par range in terms of an average score. Now, what type of players are we looking at, right? Of course, the scoring average is great to know in terms of actually projecting the median score, what we'll need to actually win a GPP. But we're looking for guys that are a little bit more well-rounded, right? Here for Friday, it was more about birdie or better percentage, all about guys that could fill it up with the putter. Here for Saturday's round, first off, around the green becomes a lot more important than what we had here for Friday, but even more so, shots gained off the tee, putting yourself in position. When you have these really windy conditions, putting the ball in the fairway becomes even more of a priority, because if you're looking to manipulate your ball flight whatsoever, you deflate the ball down, ride the wind, apply spin to the golf ball, right? Hit draws into a crosswind, hit fades into a crosswind, so on and so forth. It's much better to do that out of the fairways. So I'd expect there to be slightly more emphasis on hitting fairways here on Saturday. I'd also expect there to be more emphasis on around the green and perhaps even on putting, right? You're going to have harder putts to be made with harder conditions. Your iron shots that maybe went 5 to 10 feet here yet today, say here for Friday, maybe end up 15 to 20 feet here on Saturday. So the guys that can cash in those putts a little bit more often, I would expect to have quite a bit of success here in the third round. Let's go ahead and hop into the player poll. I can see a few of you already down there in chat. We've got Wilson down there. What is going on? We have Scott already asking the important question. So good thing I went through the weather early. Obviously, that should have answered that for you. But if you do have any further questions on the weather, feel free to go ahead and fire those down below. And in terms of a morning versus afternoon wave advantage, I guess we'll bring it back up. I don't expect it to be huge, right? Because if you take a look at the weather, I mean, it's what, a 4 mile an hour difference between what you're going to have right around 10 a.m. to what you're going to have in the rest of the afternoon. And the guys that are in the afternoon wave are going to be playing better golf, right? So it's not like I'm only going to be taking guys that are playing in the morning. There might be like a 0.2, 0.3 shot difference between the morning and the afternoon wave. I'm not sure it's enough for me to actually act on it. So to actually answer your specific question there, no, I don't think there's going to be a huge advantage between either of the waves. But if you were going to place any weight at all, it would obviously be towards the morning guys. The reason why I think there's going to be that 0.2, 0.3 shot difference isn't really because of the wind. It's more so about the receptive conditions in the morning, the fact that it's a little bit more humid. The greens tend to be a little bit more receptive as a result of that. And also with the more pristine conditions, right? There's not a ton of spike marks all over the greens. There's not pitch marks from the round of golf on the greens. All of that makes the greens easier to putt on and slower scoring as a result. It is a effect that we see there. Let's go ahead and hop into the player poll now, though. With all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and catch up on chat. You have Starlord said, "Let's go, guys. What is going on?" And Catch Me If You Can says, "What will the dew point be?" I have no idea. If I check on Windfinder, it might actually tell us. Let me give you an idea. It doesn't say it on here. If I check on the other screen, I can look, but I have a feeling you're kidding about that. I mean, it's Texas, right? So it's not going to be super dewy in the morning, but it has been a little bit dewy over the first few days. I believe, especially on Thursday, it was dewy in the morning, but no dew point metric for you, that's for sure. I'm not going to have that offhand. Let's go ahead and talk about the players, though. So for today, like I said, the optimal lineup had 3 guys in the quote-unquote stud tier range. That was Hovland, Spieth, and Scheffler. All of them ended up being in the quote-unquote optimal lineup for the large field GPP. And tomorrow, I'd expect it to be relatively top-heavy as well, right? You can see a lot of the players up top I either have as a yes or a blank. I mean, if you wanted to play Scotty Scheffler tomorrow, a Victor Hovland, or somebody like a Sam Burns, I wouldn't blame you, right? I wouldn't tell you that it's a bad play. It's just you can't play everyone up top. That's just how it works with these large field GPPs. But because a good amount of the field has been cut down, I mean, we can play most of them, right? So guys like a Jordan Spieth, who have had so much success at this golf course, who ended up shooting 4 under par today, yet could have easily been something like 7 or 8 under par. Going to be a great target tomorrow. Colin Morikawa has played well in windy conditions. Not only that, he's got the around the green play that we're looking for, and he's going to put himself in the fairway early and often, right? He's somebody who is not afraid to go to the fairway finder with the driver, right? He's not going to worry about obsess over hitting it 310, 320 out there like some of these guys. What you're looking for in these blustery conditions. So we saw him win the Open Championship in that same type of format. Would not surprise me if he went out there and got super hot with the irons. Max Homa, I'm willing to come around on him because the conditions are getting tougher. Now, for today's round, I was off of him. He is, I don't know if this 2 under par is accurate. I guess it is. He must have fallen apart towards the end, but Max Homa at one point today was 5 under par. He was really got it rolling, and that's what you expect in really lenient conditions from a Max Homa. You worry about him when he starts to miss greens, right? Because his around the green play isn't all that ideal, but he's got a rock solid putter. And I worried about him on bent grass. You can see it is his worst surface when it comes to his putting splits, but he has shown an ability. It wasn't at the Wells Fargo. I believe it was bent grass. So he showed an ability to make plenty of putts there, but he's done it this week, and he also did it last week at the PGA Championship. So maybe we need to put that myth aside. Maybe he's figured out the bent grass surface, because over the last 2 to 3 weeks, he has certainly shown an ability to putt. And I'm going to give him that credit now, right? Obviously, when the sample size becomes big enough, you can see that he's starting to figure out the surface. We got to give him the credit for that sort of thing. Sonny M there at $9,200. He just continues to hit greens and not cash in with the putter. He had, at least offhand, I can remember 7, 10 to 15 footers that he missed. And they were all like 2 to 3 feet past. You could tell that he was trying to jam in the putts today. He wasn't being cautious out there at all. I mean, he was trying to make as many birdies as humanly possible. I believe he ended up with 4 on the day, which, I mean, isn't horrible. I mean, he went out there, was able to cash in, but because of his aggressiveness, he also led to quite a few bogeys. Some of those putts that he ran by ended up 3-putting, ended up missing a few putts within 10 feet today as well. So, kind of like a Jordan Spieth, didn't get anything out of his round. If he went out there, had a clean round, Sungjae could have easily shot something in that 4 to 5 under par range. And I think at some point this weekend, you're going to see it come together. One thing we have to remember about the guy is that he hasn't played professional golf, I believe, in like 2 to 3 weeks. And for Sun GM, that's a long time, right? Sun GM is used to playing pretty much every single PGA Tour event. He had COVID. He was over there in Korea, had to quarantine before he went into Korea. Went over there, ended up still getting COVID while he was over there, had to withdraw from his event for the KPGA Tour. And they came back over here just this week. So just keep in mind that he's probably dealing with some rust, but when it's shaken off, right, he's primed to go out there and take it low. Tommy Fleetwood, I like because of the windy conditions. He's had plenty of success in them in the past. Same thing with a Kevin Na. Kevin Na, a well-rounded player. Also somebody I'm not worried about having to get up and down a few times tomorrow. Tony Finau, same story. Solid ball striker. Has shown an ability in the wind in the past. And decent enough around the green, right? In the past, I would have said that Tony Finau was an elite level around the green player, but of late, that hasn't really been the case. While he's gaining to the field, it's nowhere near what we saw towards the middle part of 2021, where, it wasn't just like 0.16 shots gained to the field. He was getting closer to half a stroke. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong category. 0.14 shots gained per round. It was closer to like 0.5 last year in the middle of 2021. So we can give him a little bit of credit there, but based on long-term pedigree, Tony Finau has been pretty solid in these conditions. Taylor Gooch, Oklahoma State native. I think we have to take a look in these windy conditions. He's, again, from the area, 2 hours north, Stillwater, so he's used to these. Webb Simpson has also shown an ability to play in these blustery conditions. Jason Kochrack knows these greens and has not made anything they had him on the featured group coverage. They showed him a ton on the actual broadcast today, and he was missing a ton of 5 to 10 footers. In fact, I believe he missed 4 putts within 5 feet today. It was just hard to watch. The guy had the yips out there, for lack of a better word. He's $8,000. He's won here before. Clearly, he's figured it out on the greens at Colonial Country Club before. So if he could do that tomorrow, the ball striking is there for a 6-7 under round. In terms of the approach play, he's one of the best players that I saw on television today. And we got to see a ton of Jason Kochrack shots, which for him is probably a little bit unfortunate because he missed literally everything out there. But in terms of the ball striking, I definitely think he has a little bit to look forward to. Look forward to there. Well, a little bit of a tongue twister there. And see if there's any questions down in chat before I move on. There are. So we got Wilson saying Scotty Scheffler played fantastic. I agree. He shot 5 under par today. Victor Hovland shot 5 under par. Jordan Spieth shot 4 under par. A lot of really big rounds from the guys up top. So you like to see that, of course, as a golf fan in general, but definitely want to give him credit. It's definitely due there. Riley says, is Riley a no play for you? He is a no play for me. He shot 3 under par day 1, 3 under par day 2, which for Showdown is pretty irrelevant, right? A guy shooting 3 under par isn't going to get it done in these large field tournaments. And guys that are at 6 under par in that top 5, most of them I have as a no. So we'll talk about that, right? Guys like Herbert III, I have down as a no for that same exact reason. He's up there in the top 5. He's probably going to go out there, shoot another 2-3 under par round like he's done here, like he did today, shot 2 under par today. That's not enough for Showdown. It's not like I don't like him for 4-round stuff. In fact, I have him in like 30% of my lineups. But in Showdown, I want guys that are a little bit further back. Another example of that, Davis Riley, he's 6 under par. I'm not sure he's going to be aggressive enough to go out there and really have that type of round. Victor Hovland, I worry about him being aggressive enough. The fact that he's already at 6 under par, it's going to be tough out there tomorrow. Outside of a Scotty Scheffler, right? He's kind of immune to that type of effect. He's probably still going to go out there, try to shoot something like 3 to 4 under par. I think guys like a Victor Hovland would be very okay with shooting something like 1 under par tomorrow. If they could just squeak out a 69, a 68, something like that, I think they'd be more than thrilled with it considering the conditions that we have. Guys like a Davis Riley, same type of boat, right? Whereas a Tommy Fleetwood at -1, he has the incentive in the world to go out there, try to shoot 5, 6 under par, put himself into contention. The guys up top don't have nearly the same amount of pressure. And I know it's not Sunday. I know it's not a major championship, right? But it's still the weekend at a PGA Tour event. People, especially that are younger, like a Davis Riley, like a Harold Varner III, that aren't these superstar players, they start to think about that type of thing, and they start to alter their strategy as early as a Saturday at these type of events. So with the conditions at hand, I just don't like a lot of the guys up top. So it's not really me picking on Davis Riley. One thing I will say, his approach play is pretty dog shit. I'm somebody, of course, as a stat guy that really looks into approach play. So that's a huge red flag for me, but I also don't really like Harold. I don't really like Chris Kirk for that same reason. Let's see, who else do we got that's at the top of the leaderboard? Guys like a Cameron Davis, I won't be playing tomorrow. Denny McCarthy, that's not the reason why. It's Denny McCarthy tends to struggle when it gets difficult in terms of the conditions. But even Nick Taylor, right, who was at the top of the leaderboard for quite some time today, those type of players I'm going to avoid tomorrow because it's just a completely different set of conditions that we're going to have for tomorrow than what got them to this point, right? So a lot of people want to play those guys because they're quote unquote in form, but this golf course tomorrow is going to look like a completely different beast to what we saw the first 2 days. So I don't know how much we should be looking into that. So that's not just an answer for Davis Riley. That's probably an answer for a lot of the guys that I'm fading on the board. And that trend continues down the board. Pretty much everyone towards the top of the board. Not everyone. There's a few examples, like I said, Jordan Spieth that I'll be playing tomorrow. But for the most part, that's the strategy that I'm going with. Catch Me If You Can says, when you do a hand build for Showdown, do you start with a top salary or do you look for value in the garbage players first? Great question. For me, I start up top. I understand both mindsets, though. Of course, starting down low, you kind of force yourself to make the hard decisions first, which probably is the way to go. It's not what I do in practice. In practice, I just take my guys up top. I'll tinker, right? If I need to go back up top and change things, I will. But yeah, that's what I do. So to answer your question, I go up top and then I go down low, but I understand starting down low and working your way up. I think both of them have their advantages for sure. Wilson says, Scheffler, what do you think about him for tomorrow? I do like Scheffler. So I don't hate him as a play, right? But you can't play everyone up top just because you're talking 50% ownership on Scheffler. And I think that could be conservative depending on what contest you're in. I mean, in these high dollar single entry contests, you could be talking 60% ownership on a Scotty Scheffler. You're talking 40, 45% on a Jordan Spieth, 30, 40% on a Victor Hovland. You can only play so many of them, right? So for me, my guys are going to be a Jordan Spieth, Warwick Hovland. I'm taking a bunch of these guys in the 9K range. You pretty much have to pick your guy up top, right? If you want it to be Scotty Scheffler, like I said, I couldn't blame you. He's the world #1 player. He's in first place right now. But the same thing that I was talking about with these guys at -6, like a Davis Riley, Victor Hovland, we talked about Chris Kirk, Harold Varner III. Same thing applies to Scotty Scheffler. He doesn't really have all that much incentive to shoot 5-6 under par tomorrow. I mean, the conditions don't really dictate that that's going to happen anyways, but he also doesn't have the incentive to shoot 3-4 under par tomorrow, right? He's going to be relatively conservative, and conservative Scotty Scheffler can still shoot 5-6 under par, right? That's why I don't want to talk you off of him, but I'm going after Jordan Spieth. I'm going after the guy who's a little bit further back that has the incentive that realistically Jordan Spieth could have shot 8 under par today. I mean, he had at least 3 lip outs around the green. So that right there could have been another 3 birdies. He had 2 misses from within 7 feet today. Those probably should have been makes for Jordan Spieth, especially if he's having a ceiling type of round. And of course, there were other shots left out there, right? We're not going to go through every single one of them, but I'm excited about him. I was today, worked out today. A 5 under par, what was it? Sorry, a 4 under par bogey free round was, again, in the optimal showdown lineup for today. But I think he could do even better tomorrow. That's really why I like him so much here on this slate. So we got a few more questions. We got Anthony down in the chat. What is going on? Hopefully you did good here on this Friday. Hopefully you're having a solid Friday night. Starting the weekend off the right way. Let's talk about some of the guys here in the 7K range I like. Where did I leave off? I don't remember where I left off. I think it was right around this range, though. Alrighty, so we talked about Tommy Fleetwood. I know that for a fact. Talked about Kevin Na. Talked about Tony Finau a little bit further down. Alrighty, we're right around this range. So we talked about Jason Kochrack. Patrick Reed, I like his short game, his around the green game. He's one of the few guys up top that I will get to, because a ceiling round tomorrow is going to be like 4 under par. In terms of a target score, what I have it at right now is 4 under par. If I had 6 guys that shot 4 under par right now, you could tell me that right now, you could give me that ticket. I couldn't do any better. I couldn't do any worse than that right now. I take that and run to the window. I think that wins the GBP tomorrow. Something like a collective 24 under par score. Patrick Reed is more than capable of getting to that. So I like the fact that he's around the green. I mean, the approach play this week has been beautiful for Patrick Reed, which I hate to say. I do not like the guy. I've been very outspoken about that in a lot of my content here on the channel. But in terms of a course fit, in terms of how he's playing it, it's hard to avoid him at this point. So like I'm there at $7,800. Will be in the player pool. One of the few pieces of quote unquote chalk that I'll be eating Here for the third round, you have Ryan Palmer. He's a home course guy. Obviously, has had a ton of looks around Colonial Country Club. So whether it's going to play difficult, whether it's going to play easy, Ryan Palmer has played under those conditions before. So if there's going to be a little bit of an adjustment factor to be made from Friday's to Saturday's round, I expect Ryan Palmer to be able to make that adjustment a little bit quicker than some of the other players. Christiane Zane loves when conditions get dicey. He's a low ball hitter. He plays on the DP World Tour all the time. In fact, a lot of his best performances have been at major championships, also at some of the tougher tracks around the DP World Tour. So at $7,600, I do like that. And one of the announcers today, I don't know what course Christiane Zane won for the first time on the DP World Tour, but the announcer today said it's a very similar course to what we have for Colonial Country Club, which I assume means it's some type of positional par 70 at that. So I guess it's also a feather in his cap there. But again, I don't know that course on the DP World Tour, so I couldn't tell you for a fact. But that's what the good old announcers told us today at the very least. Dylan Fratelli at $7,500. I like the fact that he's a good around the green player. He's also played well at the Open Championship. He's played well in Texas, so I think that speaks to his ability to play in some of these windy conditions. So at $7,500, even though he had a mediocre round today of just 1 under par, could see him getting to that 4 under par threshold that I was talking about. Ricky Fowler started off horribly. He made a double bogey on his front nine. He was 3 over par at one point with his round, was 1 of 7 for fairways. Only tracking that, of course, because I bet a prop on that. And he really rallied at the end. I thought he was dead. I thought we were just going to, see him pack up his bags, not continue that run of golf that he had been on. And he rallied, made the cut. That was important for him. I mean, for him to continue that momentum that he had been laying the foundation for with the 2 top 25 finishes in a row. I mean, if he's truly back, and the ball striking looks like it's there, and the putting today looked pretty solid too. This was an important week for him. So I like what we saw just as a fan of Ricky Fowler there, but he's solid under hard conditions, and the putting could still improve. He's, again, a great putter on bent grass. So it's been good so far this week. The putting should be great on this surface. Could see him be even better come Saturday and Sunday. Lewis Glover has a low ball flight, is one of the masters of flighting a golf ball. So I like that there at 7,300. Matthew Neesmith, another one of those pure ball strikers that seems to get it done when conditions get a little bit more dicey. You have Pat Perez, who's in form. He's seemingly been in form all season as well, particularly in the fall swing. He was going out there posting some pretty solid finishes. I like him here at these shorter tracks. I could see it here for Saturday. Aaron Rye, another consistent ball striker. I have my eye on him in cash contests, but also whenever conditions get windy, also a guy that I like putting in my GPP bowl like we have here for Saturday. Sahith Theegala made the cut, which for Showdown purposes is great. I mean, pretty much anytime Sahith is on a Showdown slate, I'm going to play him. Because as I've said multiple times in Showdown, it's all about volatility. It's all about those top-end ceiling performances that we're looking for. And, just to put out some general metrics out there, if an average player's ceiling rate was, let's say, like 1.5% or something like that, Sahith Theegala hits it like 5 or 6% of the time. He's one of those Sam Burns type of archetypes. Maybe a Victor Hovland is in that same type of mindset where their ceiling performance just happens a lot more often than for a lot of the other players in the field. So I like going to him in Showdown purposes. Hopefully he goes out there and has one of those top end upside days. We have Rory Sabatini. I like him at hard golf courses. And today, again, it's going to play relatively difficult. You have Alex Smalley, Matt Jones. Matt Jones, a great around the green player, also a solid bent grass putter. So we played him today. He shot 4 under par, which was solid for our Showdown lineups. Hopefully he could do the same thing tomorrow. Alex Smalley shot 4 under par as well. So if he could go out there and replicate that performance, I would certainly like that. He's cheap there at $6,800, and he played well. What was it, Corrales? Yeah, Corrales. He played well down in the Dominican Republic, and it was super windy down there. That golf course, no matter what, because it's a coastal course in the Caribbean, I mean, you're going to be looking at 20 to 30 mile an hour winds, and that is exactly what we're going to have here for Saturday's round. So if he's had that ability to score in those conditions, the winning score there, I believe, was like 14 under par at Corrales. Hopefully he can get to that 4 under par threshold for tomorrow. That'd be pretty sweet. He's going to be a relatively low-owned play there. Anthony says PP sucked for today. But you finished 24th in the $100 single entry today with Hovland, Spieth, Mito, and Kirk. Honestly, it's a pretty good trade-off. I mean, the $100 single entry, if you finish 24th, probably won at least $1,000 there, right? So that's pretty decent. You had Mito in all of your prize picks. Oh, yeah, I didn't have Mito on prize picks. I faded him on prize picks in one of my cards. I know a couple people played his birdie prop, which ended up hitting today, but his strokes, a lot of people faded that, which that's made a lot of sense to me as well. That didn't hit. So I'm assuming that's the prop that you took too, the over on the strokes. That was a bad beat. I believe he holed out for an eagle too. I wasn't watching when that ended up happening, but the prize picks Discord went crazy when he ended up holding out for the eagle. And it was not a happy crazy. It was people pretty pissed off. Anthony says Seabez won at Valderrama and Alfred Dunhill. So I think it's the Alfred Dunhill course. That's the course that's relatively positional, the one that he won for the first time. Valderrama, I believe that's down in South Africa. Not sure about that. Maybe it's a positional golf course too. I couldn't tell you, but like I said, he's shown an ability at the major championships too. He kind of has that knack for him, right? Play Seabez when things are difficult because he's the king of shooting even or 1 under par. Catch Me If You Can says off subject, but had all my lineups going for 6 of 6 DP World Tour today. Just needed a barn rat to make a par on the 18th. Oh my goodness. That is just the quintessential barn rat type of thing to do. Go out there and make a 12 on the last hole. That sucks, dude. That's annoying. I mean, obviously you saw it coming. I mean, a 12 doesn't happen very quickly. So you probably saw it happening there in slow motion, but DP World Tour, I need to play a little bit more DFS on that because a lot of people that enter it, I mean, I'm sure you know this, catch me if you can, don't do their research. It's a lot of just tilt entering, people that are like, oh, it's another golf entry, or people that have no idea about golf in general, just randomly entering lineups. People that take that seriously tend to pretty much print money over there. So if you're looking for an extremely profitable form of DFS, at least from a research side, right? If you have access to a database where you can get DP World stats, I'm trying to take advantage of that. It's the same thought process, right? You take apart a golf course, you figure out the skill set for success, and then you play guys that have an advantageous skill set for that golf course that are in good recent form. I mean, that's what we do here for PGA DFS, right? It's relatively simple formula. Do the same thing over there for the DP World Tour. So Miriam says Valderrama is in Spain, very hard course, best in Europe. Okay, I must be thinking of something else. Maybe the other course. No, Alfred Dunhill's in Europe, in England. I know he won in South Africa. I don't know what the name of that golf course. So maybe he has 3 wins. I thought he only had 2. I'm confusing myself. Either way, a hard golf course that even backs up a little bit further. We have Antonio down in chat. He wants my thoughts on Perez. So I did just talk about him, but I do like Perez. So Perez, he obviously has played well to this point. So him, also same thing with Patrick Reed, one of the few guys up top that I'm willing to get to because they're good around the green. They're like all around players that are, at least Perez used to gain pretty much every shots gained category. Not so much anymore. Off the tee is a real issue for Pat Perez at this point. But Patrick Reed, when he's playing his best form of golf, he's gaining in pretty much every shots gained category. So yeah, I like guys like Pat Perez, Patrick Reed, that type of skill set here for this round. That when they get out of trouble, and that's surely going to happen with these windy conditions, they can kind of bail themselves out and get out of it. That's what I'm looking for there. And of course, like I said, a ceiling performance here is going to be something like 3 to 4 under par. Miran says, I believe the Alfred Dunhill course is a Leopard Creek in SA Euro DFS player here. Yeah, you would know a lot better than me, like I said. I know a lot of the guys that have won on the DP World Tour. There's a few golf courses I know, right? Like a lot of the larger DP World Tour events that I actually do analysis and watch on TV. But if you're telling me who won the Alfred Dunhill Links or who won the South African Open, for example, you're going to stump me there. You know a lot more than me. So yeah, if we have any DP World Tour questions, I'm going to default to Catch Me If You Can in Myron down in chat. That's for sure. I think you two would be the experts on that subject. Tony was asking about the glove. He literally hits every fairway and green. Yeah, and he's also a low ball hitter. He loves playing in the wind because even when he's playing in beautiful conditions, he has one of the lowest apex heights. And it's a byproduct of his swing. He plays the ball a little bit further back in his stance than most players. He's here at $7,300. He's -3. So it's not like he's super flashy. It's not going to be super chalky. I have him at just 4.1%. Yeah, I can get behind the Glover. I have him in my player pool, probably looking at like 15% ownership for me in my player pool. I'm not going to go crazy on him. I'm playing 25 lineups, so I'm looking at right around 4 lineups and that sort of thing. But yeah, I can get behind him, Antonio. I think he's a solid play. Star-Lord says, my favorite low-owned play. Let me think about that, because obviously don't know that one off the top of my head. Low-owned. So for low-owned, we're going to go single digit. So we're going to ignore the top of the board. Pretty much everybody's double-digit owned. So probably a 7K guy. I don't hate Bazane. Truth be told, he might be one of my favorite plays here for tomorrow. Lovers in that conversation. Whew. Yeah, in terms of low owned, right? It puts me on the spot because these guys that are low owned, I'm playing like 15 to 20% tomorrow. There's not any that really stick out to me that I'm playing like 25 to 30% of. If that's kind of your question, I mean, Kurt Kitayama, he shot 5 under par today. He's 4.7% owned. I'm going to be playing like 15% of Kitayama at $6,500. So maybe he fits that type of build. Adam Svenson, I'm going to have 15% of. He's only $6,400. He's going to be super low owned. Alex Smalley is only 2.9% owned. So he's going to be a super low owned leverage play I'm getting to. Sahith Theegala I like a lot. He's only 4.1% owned. So there's a few examples there. I know I couldn't narrow it down to one. Yeah, because there's not that guy I'm going to play like 25, 30% of tomorrow. It's going to be a combination of, maybe 10 to 15 guys in that range that I'm playing in that 10 to 15% range. So that's what I'm going with there. We have Anthony says, yeah, 2 different Alfred Dunhill. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. One's in South Africa, and the other one is a links played in multiple UK courses. Okay. No wonder I was confused out of my mind there, because I knew for a fact that Danny Willett won the Alfred Dunhill links, and it was in the UK, and then the other one was in South Africa, and I'm sitting here like 2 + 2 is 5. Like I was trying to figure that out. But thank you. That is a good clarification there. I was kind of driving myself crazy thinking about that. Antonio says, is Ricky's putter back? Thoughts on him tomorrow? So I talked a little bit about Ricky Fowler. I have him down as a yes. I'm going to be playing him because he's coming in with good momentum. Day one, he played a solid round. He completely fell apart on his front 9 today, but he kind of saved it at the end. So I would like to say that momentum can carry over for round 3. I mean, that's what we hope to happen for him. And the putter did look a lot better today. He made a couple 20, 30 footers today. He wasn't missing those 10 footers like he had in that first day. So if he can continue to putt it like he did here for the second round, but hit it like he did for Thursday, I mean, that's the dream scenario. That's when we get a Ricky Fowler 4 or 5 under par round. And that's why he's in the player pool for me. So yeah, I do like him, Antonio, but it is certainly a risky play. I mean, it's Ricky Fowler. I mean, I think the name speaks for itself. I mean, he hasn't been himself for quite some time, but if he shows even a semblance of that old form, we know he can get hot in a hurry. So that's why I like him for Showdown. 1 second, guys. I got Bonderific down in chat who says, hit that like button. I could not agree anymore. So let's go ahead and talk about the rest of this 6K range. So I believe we finished off with Alex Smalley and Matt Jones. We have Lucas Herbert here and Russell Knox. Let's go ahead and group these 2 players together because both of them great in hard conditions. Lucas Herbert has made his living on the DP World Tour at the harder golf courses. Anytime I've played him and I've been at a harder track, he's been towards the top of my modeling. That's the main reason I know that. He's more of a putting specialist. You can see on bent grass, he's also a fan of it. He gains over half a stroke more per round on bent grass than any other surface. And last week looked great at the PGA Championship. If you remember, he was there in contention on Sunday. So the form is there. He made the cut here. He likes bent grass. The conditions are going to be tough, which plays into his skill set. So a lot of things looking up for Lucas Herbert. And I believe on Saturday, he shot 4 or 5 under par at the PGA Championship. And that was the most difficult day, if memory serves me right. Hopefully he can do that tomorrow, right? That's the target score that we're looking for. You have Russell Knox, guy from Scotland, just loves the wind. It's well known at this point, so I expect him to be relatively high owned tomorrow. So maybe even this 4% is a little bit lower than it actually comes in at, but I like him there at -2. He's playing some solid golf. He was a -5 at one point today. Ended up faltering a little bit down the stretch, but with the conditions we're looking at, definitely going to be in the pool. If Kurt Kitayama at $6,500, I love the form from today. The approach play was unbelievable. In fact, he probably should have been at least -5. He ended up hitting the ball into the hole on a par 3. It bounced out, hit the flagstick, and ended up like 15 feet away. And then he 3-putted for a bogey. He 2-putted there for par. He had a bogey-free round there. Either circumstance, right? I mean, he almost made a hole-in-one, got robbed, ended up making a par instead of a birdie. I like the form. He was coming in with crazy form in the Mexico Open. If you take a look at the shots gained metrics, they're just ridiculous for Kurt Kitayama. So just to give you exact numbers on how he's been hitting, you'll see approach play, he's gaining 0.8 of a stroke per round, gaining 0.2 of a stroke per round off the tee. And with the recent form, it was also extremely impressive. I mean, outside of the Byron Nelson, it was a 15th, a second place finish, a made cut at the Zurich Classic. And then also he had a top 5 finish at the Honda Classic just a few months before that down there during the Florida Swing. So I think he's completely mispriced. I think he should be like $7,500 and he's $6,500. He's still only 4.7% owned. So that's why I'm so high on him for tomorrow and why I'm going to have like 15 to 20%. Then we have Adam Svenson, another one of these young up-and-coming ball strikers. He had success at the Honda Classic as well, and he seems to thrive when conditions get a little bit tough. And, he's new on tour, is kind of like the new guy on the block. We don't know all that much about his game. It's not like a Russell Knox. He's been around forever. We know to play him in these windy conditions. He might be one of those guys, though, right? Just from the small sample size that we have, he's had plenty of success when conditions get a little bit dicey. So I like him there at 64. He's only 0.7% owned. So, I mean, you're talking trivial ownership on somebody down here in this range. So not only are you getting flexibility in terms of your ownership, of course, they're only at 0.7%, but of course, also with the price tag, they're at $6,400. Let's go ahead and catch up on questions, and then we're going to hop into the strategy, make a few lineups there on DraftKings. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Then we'll go ahead and start to talk about some of the lineup builds for tomorrow. We have Ray down here who says, who are your favorite plays from the guys up top? Who we'll do this here in a second. And Antonio says, why is Davis a no for you? Just curious. So we'll do that, and then we'll talk about my favorite plays there, Ray. So Antonio, Davis is a no for me because he's not that good around the green. I mean, he's more of an easy course specialist. He won at the Rocket Mortgage Classic. He's relatively inaccurate off the tee. And if you remember from the beginning of the video, the main things I'm looking for are, first off, accuracy off the tee. You're going to have to keep yourself in play tomorrow. And then, of course, a well-rounded game. So not just guys that are, high birdie rate players, kind of like a Cam Davis, more guys that gained in all 4 stat categories. And Cam Davis has at least 2 leakages. That would be his approach play and his around the green play. Leave a lot to be desired. So he's a no for me because he's going to be chalky and because he doesn't really fit the skill set that I'm looking for. So that's going to be the answer there on Davis. But that's why I'm also fading a lot of the guys up top. So if I were to sort this just by score to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, I mean, I'm fading Bill Hostler for that reason. I'll be fading Scott Stallings for that same reason. Chris Kirk, Victor Hovland won't be in my poll. Davis Riley, Cam Davis, McGreevy won't be in the poll for that reason. Just a lot of the guys that are there at -6 or better, they're a little bit chalky that maybe don't have the best around the green play. Those are the ones that I'm fading. Now, the guys up top that I am playing, right, that are going to be chalky, Patrick Reed, Pat Perez, who else do we got up here? Jordan Spieth, for example. All some of the best around the green players in the world. And now the one guy I would lump in with that, right, is Scotty Scheffler would be a great around the green player, right? I'm only fading him because of ownership. So he's kind of like his own special case example there. But that's how I'm treating a lot of the quote-unquote chalky guys. I want no piece of the guys that are chalk unless they're also a good course fit. So because the golf course tomorrow is going to play completely different than what we saw for the first 2 days. I mean, you're talking at least a 10-mile-an-hour difference in terms of the winds. And then, of course, faster and firmer greens than we saw Thursday. Thursday, it was extremely receptive. I think a lot of people forget about the rain they had there on Tuesday and Wednesday. It rained over 2 inches over that 48-hour period. So, of course, the golf course was more receptive. I mean, when you look at some of the highlights from Thursday and compare them to what you saw this afternoon, you're looking at a lot more bounce on the greens and maybe 1.5 to 2 feet of extra rollout with a lot of your approach shots. And that's just only going to continue and get even worse throughout the weekend. So It's just playing a little bit differently now. So that's why I'm fading some of those guys up top. And now let's talk about some of my favorite plays up top too. Didn't forget about your question there, Ray. So talking about my favorite plays up top, number one would be Jordan Spieth. They're at $9,900. My second favorite play up top would be Sungjae Im. I do like Tommy Fleetwood quite a bit up top because it's going to be relatively difficult. And like Colin Morikawa there. And I also like Max Homa. Those would be my top 5 plays. And special shout out to Scotty Scheffler, I guess, though. Because if you're not playing Jordan Spieth tomorrow, you want to make a quick 1-to-1 pivot. He would become my favorite play on the slate, right? It's a factor of game theory. You can't play everyone at the top of the board, but I think Scotty Scheffler is also a great play tomorrow. All right, let's go ahead and talk about my favorite lineup. So we're going to make a GBP lineup, and then we're going to make a cash lineup together. The whole point of this, of course, is just to talk about what I'm thinking about when making a lineup, not necessarily so much as give you a lineup, right? Excuse me, guys. My throat is really hurting there. All right, we're good. So it's, again, don't just make this lineup. First off, you're probably going to be duplicated like 5 to 6 times. So I wouldn't recommend it. But this is the kind of thought process I'm going through with making a lineup. So let's go ahead and put Jordan Spieth in there. He's going to be extremely chalky. So we'll go through some of the thought process with using a chalky Jordan Spieth in your GBP lineup. Now, if you're avoiding Jordan Spieth, avoiding Scotty Scheffler, you can pretty much play whoever you wanted. Even if you take a Victor Hovland, if you take him as your first man in, you can be pretty confident across the board that you're not going to be duplicated. Now, it's not foolproof, right? If you take just all chalk with a Victor Hovland, you're still probably going to be duplicated. But if you add in one pivot, somebody in that sub 5% range, you're pretty much going to be good to go there. So let's go ahead and use a Jordan Spieth. Let's make it a little bit harder on ourselves to make sure that we're unique there. So we have him at $9,900. Another guy in the range, let's take Sungjae. Let's go ahead and take Tommy Fleetwood too. Again, these would be 3 of my top plays on the slate. Let's go down to the 8K range. I do like Taylor Gooch a lot because of his ability in windy conditions. That might be a little bit too aggressive though. So let's go ahead and actually cut one of these guys out. Let's take Tommy Fleetwood, put him on the back burner. That puts us at 7,500, which is going to be a lot more doable in this situation. In terms of a third guy, let's go ahead and go with Jason Kochrack. He's there at $8,000. That puts us at 73. I'm thinking we can probably swing that. Because one thing I'll say is, Jordan Spieth is going to be super chalky, but you're looking at like 10% ownership on somebody like a Kochrack and a Taylor Gooch, and probably 10 to 12% on somebody like a Sungjae Im. You probably don't have to worry about ownership all too much. So let's go ahead and take somebody right around 7,500. I think Lucas Glover makes a lot of sense at 73. And we can be a little bit balanced about it. Maybe leave like $100 or $200 on the table and take an Aaron Rai. Every single player in this lineup is decent in windy conditions. The only one I'd say who hasn't proved himself in windy conditions to this point would be Aaron Rai, because his sample size is small, but in his small sample size, he has been excellent in the wind. And then Jason Kochrack, who, again, he's just won at this golf course before. He's been striping the ball beautifully. He just needs to get that putter to work. And he's gotten it to work at Colonial before. So, what would it be? Would it be mind-blowing for him to do that tomorrow? I don't think it would be. So I like him there at $8,000. This would be a great lineup for the large field GPP. Because we have a little bit of salary left on the table, we do have pivots like a Glover, who's going to be sub 5%. Aaron Rai, who's also going to be in that sub 5% range. I would have no problems with this in even the largest field of GPPs like we have here in this 11,000 entry contest. Now let's talk through a cash lineup. So obviously, completely different mindset here. It's going to be all about median projection. And when it comes to a cash game, I think you should try and take Scheffler and Spieth together. They're both great plays. They're a little bit expensive, of course. You can see we're down to $7,300, but because of the strength of the 7K range, I think we can make it happen. So what we're going to do here is we're going to find our lowest value option to start. I think Kurt Kitayama would be a prime example for that. Just given the ball striking stats coming in, he does provide a relatively high floor, and he's played well in windy conditions. Just think of the Honda Classic. He went out there, absolutely dissected that place, and it was super windy out there. So I like him at 70. We have 7,600 now, which is even better. So let's go into the 7K range. Let's strategically think through some of the quote unquote safer plays. I think Zane Hoot certainly fits that build. Same thing with Patrick Reed because of how well rounded he is. And at $7,400, mean, I'd even go with Glover here. I'd even leave the $100 on the table and go with something like this. Now, if you wanted to spend that extra, $100 or whatever, go up to, actually, there's no one even at $7,700. You could change somebody in this lineup, but I don't think you have to. I think everyone in this lineup, you can be pretty happy about it. You can see there's no one at $7,900 either, so it's making that one a little bit difficult. But you guys get the point. You can tinker with this like you'd like, but I think for cash, the two guys you have to have in the lineup are Scheffler and Spieth. Now, if you wanted to be a little bit more balanced about it, there's times where I try to do that when it comes to cash. It's just I don't love the 8K range as much here. At a major championship, it's really easy to just take all guys in the 9 and 8K range because it's all guys like a Victor Hovland, all guys like a Jordan Spieth in that 8K range during a major championship. I mean, our 8K range this week is like Herbert III, Taylor Gooch, Mito Pereira. I mean, these guys don't suck, but it's not like Victor Hovland in the 8K range, right? There's levels to this type of thing. Just to show you what that would look like, though, right? If you tried to be a little bit more balanced about it, we go in here putting Herbert III in, and finish up with Ryan Palmer, let's say, right? Or let's just put the $7,800 golfer in there for the hell of it, right? It's not that much huge of an upgrade, right? You're going like, okay, wow, we're going down from a Jordan Spieth to somebody like a Herbert III, but going from a Kitayama to a Sebastian Munoz isn't that much of a leg up, right? So that's why I'm willing to go down to somebody like a Kitayama and spend up for somebody like a Jordan Spieth in this lineup. I think it's worth that type of an upgrade. So that's what we have here for the cash lineup for tomorrow. Let's go ahead and see if there's any questions. There's not down in the chat. It's all right. We're going to have this going on tomorrow as well. So if you're looking for round 4 content, we will have you covered there. So I'm assuming right around 8 p.m. Eastern time, like we did today. That's going to be at least the intended time for the start. If they end up running a little bit late with the rounds, sometimes I may have to delay it a little bit, but somewhere in the 8 to 8:30 p.m. range. Of course, look forward to some prize picks content that will be dropping in the next hour to hour and a half, I'd say, on my channel. And best of luck here with round 3. I'm looking forward to it. I have 22 6 of 6 lineups, so it's not my best performance. I've had a lot better luck of late when it's come to 6 of 6 percentage. But hopefully one of them can come through. I have a lot of Jordan Spieth. I have a lot of Victor Hovland, obviously. Both of them were core picks. A lot of Patrick Reed up top. We got a lot of Chris Kirk up top. A lot of the leaders, frankly. A lot of Scott Stallings in lineups. A lot of Bill Hossler have in lineups. Just no Scotty Scheffler. So if anybody but Scotty Scheffler could win this week in terms of my GPP lineups, I'd be a pretty happy guy. But you can see there's a few questions down there. We have Anthony says good stuff. Good luck. Yeah, good luck with prize picks too. Hopefully we can cash out tomorrow. And Matthew says prize picks later on. Yeah, that'll be here in like an hour and a half, like I was saying. So best of luck, guys. Hopefully we can cash out here for round 3. I'll be in the large field GPP. So maybe we'll be $50,000 richer come the live stream tomorrow. But in either case, guys, best of luck.